Hello, I'm Josh. Nice to meet you, whoever you are, whoever's watching. I've, for a long time, been wanting to make a video journey, a video journal, maybe, um, an inspirational channel, um, write a book, an autobiography, because I've got a story to tell, a lot of stories to tell, and I've overcome a lot in life, and I'm in all kinds of forms of recovery, and in one aspect of my recovery, they talk about sharing the message and not the mess. But I think that it's necessary to share everything, including the mess, including what led us to recovery, because that's how we're going to give hope to people who are hopeless. That's how we're going to connect with people that feel like there's no tomorrow worth living for. I've been there over and over and over and over since I was very young. So quick backstory, and I mean super quick, is I have CPSD, I have bipolar disorder, I have ADHD, and I am not those things. I have those things happening in my brain at this time and for many years. Maybe I was born that way. Maybe I'll need to be on medication for the rest of my life. Maybe doing some trauma work through EMDR will change that course a little bit, and I can get off of some of the medications and take, bare minimum, if any. Miracles happen. Maybe I'll be cured of all of these psychiatric labels. I'm also queer, and a paradox walking, because I'm also a white male. So, there's been some privilege, but I haven't felt very privileged. I grew up very poor. I live frugally on disability pay. I don't have a lot of money to spend. But I believe that's going to change. I believe that's going to change as I change, as I grow. I think abundance will grow. It's already happening for me. So that's getting right from the background and tying it into the now, is that this year, the first half of it, was the most dire, terrifying year of my entire life. I am an addict, and I started out with pot, with weed, at 15. And after a very traumatic childhood that had sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, and even religious abuse, because I was forced to go to church and hear that people like me were going to hell, I found something in marijuana that was able to calm me down and to numb those feelings of constant shooting, spiking, aching pain all over my body and all through my heart and spirit and mind. I could breathe. I could breathe. I could sleep. I just found out that I have scoliosis, and now I know why my back hurt when I was 15 every single day. I just took it as normal, and that maybe I was being, because I was called a pussy as a child by both people at school and my mother. I was just being a pussy, and everybody has back pain. And it's a long story, but I didn't pursue medical confirmation of what was wrong for many years. Not until my mid-30s did I start to seek medical for physical health. In my mid-20s, I had my first panic attack, and that's when I sought help for my psychiatric issues, my first manic episode, and it was very scary. And it's been a journey. It's been a very difficult journey since having that panic attack. And it's been slow and scary and confusing. And weed was always my best friend during that whole time. However, in my 20s, I finally found this social circle where I had friends that I could relate to, and I was the DJ at all our Friday night and Saturday night parties, because me and my best friend had a house that had a huge living room, and our walls were just covered with art, like no space left unarted. And I had never had that before, and I began drinking. And that wasn't a problem at first because I never liked drinking. I grew up with a stepfather who was an alcoholic, and the smell of it and the taste of it made me gag, and I was a lightweight. I would get, drunk off of 4 or 5 drinks, and I would have really bad hangovers until I started to build a tolerance. Once I built a tolerance and my psychiatric issues started to really come to the forefront, that's when things changed with alcohol. It became a problem. I didn't want to admit it. Throughout the 2000s, the aughts, as they call them, the OOs, the 01, 02, 03 through 9, I managed my alcoholism and denied that I would ever become an alcoholic. I, towards the end of the decade, began drinking every other day. But I was drinking to escape. And I became, after mixing with benzodiazepines and having my first blackout, I became a blackout drinker. I found that that's where I wanted to be. Nowhere. I wanted to not exist. I wanted to have fun until then, but my ultimate goal was to completely numb myself of all of the angst and the hurt and the wounds, the festered wounds that were deep within my gut, deep within my heart, all throughout my thinking and in my spirit. I was always happy-go-lucky most of the time, but then I'd have major mood swings, and so it was hard to make and keep friends. So that time during my mid-20s when I had that group of friends was very special to me, and I honor it. I needed it. I needed to feel like I could belong somewhere in some kind of group, because as a kid, I was very isolated. I made up my own worlds. I acted like my life was a movie. I named the movie The Times of Life. And I even had soundtracks. I would create songs. I would go on walks alone, and I had lists that I written in notebooks, where I would make up band names and make up song titles, and they'd have an album. And then I'd go out walking thinking of these song titles, and the song title would inspire me to make up a song. And I would play percussion with my teeth. and then bass in the throat, and then like weird noises, and sing all at once. I was like a one-man band walking alone at 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old, and 15 years old. Also during that time, I made up, way before fantasy football ever existed, I made up like fantasy baseball teams and would devise ways of creating random games and keep track of the stats. I was all about the stats, even though I'm not a math person at all. I missed like a big part of junior high where they did fractions in algebra, and that screwed me up with math. Because I didn't ever learn fractions properly, I was terrible at math going forward. But anyhow, I digress, or I regress, or progress, all at the same time in this. I didn't know what I was going to say for this first video, but I wanted to start. I wanted to start somewhere. So, fast forward, I got sober after jumping out of a third-story window and being in a nursing home in a wheelchair with a shattered foot and a shattered shoulder for 4 months. And I got to think about whether or not I really wanted to live or not. And believe it or not, there was a guy there who had weed. He was an older man, and he was a Buddhist. And he was also an alcohol and drug counselor. And we had talks at night that would fill my soul with hope and with remembrance and with resonance. And I decided to live. So I got into a rehab and I stayed sober except for weed because I did not want to take psychiatrics anymore after 10 years of bipolar medications. Oh, if anybody's bipolar or, has had to deal with clinical depression or PTSD, you know how medications can be. You know how difficult it can be to find the right one, and that process can be daunting. And it can be really excruciating, really, on a lot of levels, because there can be so many side effects, and then you feel like a failure because it's not working. And if you have PTSD and a lot of guilt and shame already inside, it just reinforces that. And if you've been told that you were born bad and there's something wrong with you from the very beginning, then it reinforces that. So I was gonna just be happy with my weed as long as I didn't drink, because as long as I didn't drink, I was okay. And if your journey is that you're sober and you still smoke weed or eat gummies, then that's your journey, and I respect that and I honor that. Our sobriety journey is our own sobriety journey, and I strongly believe in harm reduction. You do what you can not to die from the disease of addiction. So fast forward to age 41, a few years ago, where I was getting to the point where weed was no longer serving me. It was making me very depressed. I would just lay in bed all day and watch TV. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to be on my phone. I didn't want to make art. I didn't want to converse with people on Facebook, which is where all my friends are, because I'm very isolated. I had, at that point, one friend in real life. She was my best friend. She lived upstairs in this low-income housing project for people with mental health issues. And I got lonely one night when I relapsed because I was depressed on alcohol. I wanted to feel good. And I went to that neighbor's house that I wasn't friends with, but he'd always come over and like leech weed off of me. And I thought, well, I'm going to go over there for some company, because once I get drunk, then I'm social. Then suddenly I want to be the life of the party, and I want to be at a party, Sure, you can relate if you're an alcoholic, or just if you drink. And that neighbor had a pipe that he handed me. And I knew all about crystal meth. I didn't know that that's what he was handing me. I asked him as I took the pipe. And with pipe in hand, he tells me it's meth. And I knew all about it from recovery, from rehab and staying in sober living for a couple of years afterwards and going to constant meetings just in a bubble of the 12-step program. Really just clinging to it with all that I had because it was working for me. It was working. Until it didn't work. So, like, I remember that moment very well. Everything flashing before my eyes of what meth had done to others that I had known. And the destruction that it causes so quickly. Just what a nasty drug it is. But I was drunk. I'm blackout drunk. And I was gray out at this point. Gray out is like that in between where you're not able to make good decisions. You are drunk. But you can remember parts of what was happening. And I remember that moment and thinking, we say it in recovery, you get the fuck it's. I said, fuck it. I'll try it. One night, might be fun. I then became a meth addict. And for 3 years, I battled that addiction. I never became an everyday user, except for 1 month. April of last year, I went on what they call a run. I slept for 3 days in April. I ate 3 days in April. And I was high on meth for the rest of the month. My journey with that is pretty gnarly. Meth, getting it downtown San Diego is dangerous as hell. That leads me to losing my best friend last year. She, at the same age, at the same time, decided she was going to try meth after not doing it for many years and not liking it when she tried it. But for some reason she wanted to use. And she got hooked instantly as well. She did one thing for me that was amazing. She never gave me her hookup. She refused because I, after doing it 3 times, got into an outpatient program. I did it 3 times in 3 months, and I saw this was becoming a habit, and I was going to be a junkie real quick because I know my addict brain. So sorry for shaking my leg. Sorry for that motion. But that's nervousness. I have a lot of nervousness being in front of a camera and sharing. And I know I have ADHD, so I ramble and I go from topic to topic. So it may be hard to understand what this is all about. Why am I doing this? What is he going on about? Like, what is the point? Is he going to get to the point? I don't think there's really a point except to introduce myself a little bit and what brought me here. So what brought me here was that meth use led to 3 overdoses last year. My friend, my only friend in real life, dying because it was laced with fentanyl. And on my 3rd overdose in December, I started freaking out. I had seizures. I started having heart problems. And I was basically in bed for 95% of the time, unable to do anything. Having episode after episode of loss of circulation, chest pain, thinking I was going to have a heart attack and die all through January, and then them putting me on benzodiazepines again after not wanting to go on them again. I went ahead and went on them again to calm my nervous system down, because what was happening is I was basically reliving that OD over and over and over, and I was going to die of a heart attack. So I spent 4 months of this year, the first 4 months, I was afraid that I was going to die every day. That's 120 days or so. For over 100 days, every day I had mild to severe chest pain more than once a day, episodes, They started getting less and less after I was put on Klonopin, but I was still having them. And being that close to death, I've been suicidal a lot. I've had 3 suicide attempts, but being that close to death woke me up. And I decided I needed to change everything about my life. I didn't have much of a life, and I needed to get one. I didn't have friends, and I needed to get some. I didn't have support, and I needed to find some. I had resentments against the 12-step program, so I didn't go to meetings. I tried some on Zoom. I did not like it. The outpatient worked until I left. As soon as I left, I started smoking weed again, slippery slope, got depressed, wanted alcohol. The alcohol led to meth. So, here I am in September, Labor Day weekend approaching, and I am more hopeful. And not just hopeful like, oh, I hope, like, you know, things change and get better, but hopeful like just at peace. I am more serene, even though I'm shaking my leg. I'm nervous to do this. I am more at peace in my center than I have ever been in my entire life. I have been practicing law of attraction techniques. I've created a morning routine, and 4 months ago, just over 4 months ago, 4.5 months ago, I began going to 12-step meetings again. And I did that not because it's a cure, because I don't believe it's a cure. For some people it's a cure. That's your journey, awesome. That's the only thing you need to stay sober, awesome. I need psychiatry, I need medication, I need therapy, I need meditation, I need to take care of my physical health. I have physical problems too, with scoliosis and degenerative discs and chronic fatigue and diabetes, etc., etc., etc. What happens to the body when one is traumatized over and over, as some may be able to relate to. Anyhow, I've come to a place where I feel like I hit a turning point, and I've turned myself in the right direction for my life, and there's no looking back. Now, I know that as an addict, this is something that I will have to address on a daily basis by staying spiritually fit, is what they call it in the program. That's one thing that the program gets spot on. We need to be spiritually fit in order to stay sober, because we are powerless in our addiction. Addiction changes the brain. You will use and drink against your will. Now, to some that might sound foreign, but to any addict or alcoholic, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You will drink, throw it up, and then drink again just so that you'll feel okay. You will dig through a garbage can for weed that you thought that you threw out, that had a dead cat in it. Did that for a dime bag, for $10 worth of weed. We found the weed, but under the dead cat. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up at the message part. The message is, if you've heard any part of my story and relate to it, know that there is hope. Know that as long as we are taking another single breath on another single day, that miracles are possible. Little miracles every single day are possible. Little blessings every single day are possible. Challenges are inevitable, because challenges, that's how we grow. But we can grow easier if we use the law of attraction. and that's what I'm learning. So that's going to be kind of included in going forward what I talk about. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, then this is not for you. Or if you don't know about that stuff and always thought it was kind of airy-fairy, it's not. It's all about vibration, energy. We are energy beings. This whole universe is energy. And that's what it's all about, getting your energy right. And you do that through some simple practices. Meditation is one. I have ADHD, so I can't just meditate on my own. I do guided meditations, and I meditate with making art, because that's when I can go into a place where I'm not thinking much. I'm just doing naturally, instinctively. At the beach, taking photos at sunset and just appreciating. Being in a state of appreciation is huge for me. And it's doing wonders. It's doing wonders for me physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. All of the ways I got fucked up as a child and then attracted more of that as an adult are beginning to heal. Healing is possible, no matter how far down you've gone, no matter how bad it's gotten for you. If you're still here on this planet, there's a reason for it. You're here for a reason. And it might take a little effort. It will take a little effort. But the less you resist, the less resistance you put out into the world that we live in, the very frightening world that we live in right now, the chaotic world that we live in right now. The less resistance you put out to other people and challenges that come your way, the easier the journey will be. I promise you that. So I guess what this is a brief introduction of who I am and a little bit of what I've been through. Just a taste. We'll get deeper into it in further videos. More shall be revealed in time. But what I want to leave you with is, as long as you're still here and breathing and you have another day on this planet, no matter how much pain you're in, no matter how far down you've gone, don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. I'm not giving up on you. Love to all. Stay bright and shining.